These two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we're pitting the past against the present across a picturesque auto tour. There is no greater country on earth than Scotland. Believe me, I've checked, and I'm going to show you some of its sights through an auto tour, where we'll see whether a car of the past can still show one from the present a thing or two. The auto tour rules are introduced in the RX expansion, but at their simplest, each player picks a single class of car to compete in a variety of events, from circuit racing to rallying and whatever other challenges you can think of along the way. We're looking for the lowest overall time taken across the entire tour, so in timed events like rallying and hill climbing, there's no big deal and they are run to the same rules as Rallyman Dirt. But circuit races aren't timed in Rallyman GT, so instead the Auto Tour rules add 10 seconds to a driver's overall time if they finish in first place, 20 seconds for finishing second, and so on. The quickest driver before the start of each event gets to sit on pole or to sweep the stage ahead, so factor that into your strategy when you get an Auto Tour to the table. What does our tour today look like? We're starting at O'Daly's Knockhill, the home of Scottish motor racing, for a single lap shootout to determine the frontrunner. From there, we'll head north into Perth and Kinross for one of Bart's rally stages through Tay Forest Park, that being Glencastle Farm, before moving into the Highlands for another circuit race around Bannochbrae. Don't try to find it on any maps, just enjoy the view, though it will be raining. It is Scotland after all. It won't last long, however, as from there we head west, first to a quick zip around Loch Rannoch, and then into the Arachar Alps as we climb up the mountain pass where we may rest and be thankful for the view. Finally, if only for a bit of fun, we return to the Kingdom of Fife for some rallycross, again at Knockhill, where we'll crown a winner, but we will in fact all be winners on account of having seen all of these sights. An elegant country needs to be seen from an elegant car, and it's the Aston Martin looking GT5 and 6 that will be competing against each other on this auto tour. For the sake of getting through the tour in a timely manner, I'm going to run each as though they were difficulty 5 NPCs, and before every event they are able to choose whichever relevant dashboard they like the look of. Any damage taken is considered to be repaired in between events, though you can certainly run an auto tour with rules regarding repairs if you'd like more of a challenge, or if you'd like your auto tour to take the form of a reliability trial, for example. For us though, we're just going to enjoy some friendly competition. Let the tour commence. We are sat at the top of the hill at Knockhill, and we have randomly decided that the GT6 is going first. I've put it on the soft tyres. We've got a race car turning up to a race circuit, meaning business, and we have a classic GT5 just on normal asphalt tyres behind it, perhaps acknowledging that it is not going to win on the circuits and we'll just have a good time, but anything can happen as we go into the first round. And we see what these NPCs can do. A couple of hazards on gears 2 and 3. It is a very good job that it is on soft tyres. It's going to park in the middle of the track in 5th gear, and hopefully it has done enough. A couple of hazards as well. The GT5 does not have soft tyres to put them all down. It can't boost up to 5th, that would be its 3rd hazard, so it is instead going to come out of the corner in 4th. Next round then, and the GT6 has to break down for the first hairpin of this course. 4th into 3rd, break down to 1st, something like that. The GT5 behind it has rolled a lot of hazards, so let's put him there in 5th gear and we will see if that was a smart move going into the next round. And once again, it's got a fair few hazards and most of them are on its brakes. It needs to get down to 2nd gear like that for one hazard. We can then coast through the corner. We can go up to 3rd with our 2nd hazard, and then we can go 4, 5 like that. It will mean another heavy brake going into the chicane, but clearly GT5 thinks that is worthwhile. knowing that the GT6 is going to be wasting its soft tyres, being stuck behind. Next round, and the GT5 is navigating the chicane. Another couple of hazards on its brake dice. It's going to use one of them to get down to second gear. It can then coast through, drop to first gear in order to boost up to gear 3, and then I think it will go into fourth gear. The GT6 is now on 3 hazards for its loss of control, and it's rolled 4 of them. I think the GT6 is stuck, and that will be a second gear finish once again. The GT5 has a couple of hazards to work around. I think they can do pretty well out of this roll. They can get far down the track as they can. They finish in the middle of the track in 5th gear. Let's see if the GT6 can end a turn in 6th gear and get the jump on the GT5 on the back straight. It has rolled only a couple of hazards, and I think he can avoid their use. So let's go into 1st gear. Let's try and get through the next corner in 3rd. We will be able to end in 6th gear around the outside, so we will do that. Let's break down as far as we can. We need to be in 5th, somewhere over here. We could be in 4th there. We can break down then to 3rd, and that would be fine. And then we can coast and emerge in gear 6. The GT5 behind then can use a couple of coasts and end in 5th gear. Next round, and the GT6's tyres are shot. They are on 2 hazards. Luckily for them, they have gotten a pretty good roll. We can drop down to 5th gear and then brake all the way down to 1st. That's 1 hazard for their turn. They can then coast out. They can't use their other coast. That will be another hazard. So they will go into 2nd, 3rd, and then 4th. And that does give an opportunity for the GT5 to try and jump them again as they go up the hill. Can the GT5 catch up? Potentially its last opportunity to do so. It wants to coast and then brake down to 1st gear. Just the 1 hazard in that stack. It can then coast into the corner for its 2nd hazard, and then it can get all the way out the other side by going up to gear 5, right next to the GT6, showing that the old dog still has a few tricks. On the next round, it is going to be able to sail through in 1st place, crosses the line in 5th gear as the GT6 comes 2nd. Some questionable decisions there by the GT5. You don't have to be in top gear to take turn order, but hey, he tested his brakes and they worked. Will they work as well on the dirt of Tay Forest? That win means the GT5 is 10 seconds ahead and will be the first car to find out whether GT cars are suitable for rallying. Let's see what the GT5 can do as it rolls a couple of hazards on its high gears. I don't think it will get that far. It's going to go 1, 2, 3 and into 4th gear for the time, and that will allow it a couple of seconds back for unused coast dice as well. As it continues its run into the 1st corner, a couple of hazards, notably on the brake that it needs to get down to 2nd. But he can coast out like that, and he can also drop to 1st, boost up to gear 3, that's the 2nd hazard, and then come all the way out into 5th gear. And that means it is time for the GT6 to have a go as it leaves the start line. Just the 1 hazard on gear 6. They're never going to get that far. They're going to go much the same up into 4th gear. They get 3 seconds back for unused gear and coast die. The GT5 with a jump to navigate. It can go over the jump in 4th gear, and that will be a hazard for its turn for going over the jump at all. So that will put it here in 4th gear, and we will mark that as a hazard. Let's see, it's going to have to break down for some upcoming corners, or will he boost up to 5th gear and then they will slow down on the next turn instead? Can the GT6 come anywhere close to matching it? They have to break down to 2nd gear, and that is easily done. They've got a hazard on their coast die. They don't want to go down to 1st gear because they don't have the boost to get up through the gears, so they're going to have to end their turn there in 3rd. Alternatively, they can end here in 4th and tackle the next corner in a slightly different way. So that is not the best of turns for them, but they will hope to get up to gear 6 whenever they can. Next round then, and the GT5 has to slow down for an upcoming corner. So they're going to drop to 4th, break down to 2nd, coast through the corner like that, emerge in 3rd, and boost up to another 5th gear finish. Right, let's see. They've got to work out how to get through this corner. They're going to have to break down to 2nd gear on the inside. They're going to have to try to stretch out their turn. Unfortunately, if they go over the jump in 4th to maximise the distance, that will be a 3rd hazard for the turn. They can't place a 3rd hazard under the NPC rules, so they don't want to do that. They also don't want to really end their turn in 4th gear for the time, so I think they are going to have to go like this. That would be a particularly hairy next turn for them. As we go into the next round, the GT5 has the back half of the course to go. Would it be wise to slow down, take a hit on the time in order to get to that corner and then accelerate out through it? Potentially. They could end in 4th gear like that, and they are hoping that consistency is going to be better than outright speed. The GT6 needs a clean brake die and a clean gear 4 in order to get over that jump without losing control. It has gotten a clean brake die but not a clean gear 4, so the best it can do is go over the jump in 4th gear, land here, and then lose control. That damage token is a coast die damage. It does take seconds back for unused dice, but that will not be enough to offset the 1 minute that it has taken to crash over that jump. The GT5 is looking pretty good then. We are going to see what it can do out of this corner, and it looks like quite a lot. So it's going to have 1 hazard on its breakdown to 2nd gear. It will be able to coast through. It can emerge somewhere in 5th gear. You will have to do that in a sliding space to give it enough room to break down for the next corner. Another 5th gear finish. GT6 is going to be able to get up to 4th gear in order to slow down for the corner on the next turn. Next round, can the GT5 finish? It's got a fair few hazards. I think it will be able to get around them. It's going to need to break down to 2nd. That is its 2nd hazard for the turn. The best it can do with its remaining dice is to get up to 3rd gear on the exit to that corner. As we see what the GT6 can do, it needs to break down to 2nd gear. That's 1 hazard. Needs to coast through the corner. It cannot place gear 6. That will be its 3rd hazard. So it will take a gear 5 time card, and that is its turn. The GT5 can easily cross the line. It wants to do so in a high gear, of course. What can the GT6 do to make up the deficit? It's going to have to slow down from 5th gear, I think. Really doesn't want to do that, though. It gets to go again. and there are another few hazards to get around. Breakdown to second is fine. Coasting through the rest of the corner is its first hazard. The best it can do is end in third. Anything more would be another hazard too many. He is going to want to end here in fourth, but another fourth gear finish. Can he finish on this turn, or will it be the next? He is going to break down to second. Unfortunately, not have enough dice to get through the rest of the corner. Gets bogged down in the middle, and we'll have to have another turn to cross the line. Very slow trip through the forest for the bulky GT6. The older and nimbler GT5 has done it quicker. A disastrous round for the GT6 there, as its current time after just 2 events is 4 minutes and 18 seconds. He has to find a couple of minutes on the next few rounds, and that'll mean pushing hard up the mountain pass. But before we get there, there's an opportunity to stretch its legs around a couple of circuit races, firstly at Bannochbrae. As mentioned, the weather has turned. It is a wet race, and we will have to see what happens as the GT5 opens the race. So they're going to go into first gear, through into second. They're going to coast through, and I think they're just going to sit in the middle in fifth. That'll give the GT6 some thinking to do. So they don't have a boost die, but they do have gear 6. Can they get there? I don't think so. Does look like they can match the GT5, however. So they're going to come alongside in fifth gear like that. Next round, GT5 has turn order. They are going to break down to second gear. They are then going to coast around that corner there, drop into gear 1, and they can get all the way into fifth gear, comfortably ahead of the GT6 as it rolls a couple of hazards, but they don't really have much choice, so they will play it safe and they will see whether they can reel in the GT5 over time. Next round, the GT5 is out ahead. Let's see what they can do. They can drop to fourth, break all the way down to first gear, and they are able to boost all the way up to fifth gear as well. Let's see what the GT6 can do as it heads towards the hairpin itself. It's going to coast through in second gear. The most it can be in for the corner is fourth gear. So that's not really a run that they'd like. Can the GT5 pull ahead even more? It looks like it. It's going to coast there. The gear 2 corner coming up. Can they break down to second gear before it? It looks like they can. Coast into the corner, drop to 1, boost up to third gear. 1 hazard. It is their only hazard as they head under the bridge in fifth gear. Looks like the perfect auto tour for the GT5, so let's see if the commentator's curse will strike. The GT6 then, trying to catch up, needs to break down first gear, and that will be 1 hazard. It won't be able to get up to 6, but it will be able to get up to fifth gear before the corner like that. Next round, as the GT5 goes under the bridge, consistency is key for this old machine as it finishes another turn in fifth gear. The GT6, desperate to hit sixth gear. Can he do it? Not on this turn. He's going to have too many hazards. It's another fifth gear finish as it ducks under the bridge. Another round. And the GT5 has not lost control thanks to the gear 2 die, but that will be a bit of a scuppered turn going forward. 1 hazard on the brake die to get to second gear, and then another hazard to coast out. Can't put down anything else. They're going to sit in second gear at the bottom of the course there. What can the GT6 do to capitalise? Flawless set of dice. So the highest gear it could be in before that corner is 6th. That would be nice to get the jump on the GT5. So, can it manage that? Yes, it can. Not only can it manage that, but it can also then break down to third gear and take turn order like that. Right, the GT6 gets to go first as it rolls a couple of hazards at either end of its gearbox. Let's see, it needs to be in at least second gear to overtake the GT5, and it needs to be in second gear for the corner. So break down to gear 1, come through the corner in second gear, and then we'll go up into third gear like that. Can the GT5 overtake? It needs to be in at least third there, but to do that it needs to go around the outside of that corner in second, and then it can break down to first gear in order to block up the corner. The GT6 has not learnt about the nimbleness of the GT5 as it is blocked for the next round. An awful lot of dice to work with. It's in first gear. It can coast through the chicane and through the next corner before speeding out towards fifth gear. Another round. The GT5 heads over the bridge. We need it to break down, I think, into third gear for the speed limit. It can go over the bridge in second and will then emerge in fifth. Can the GT6 hit sixth gear to try another overtake? But first, it has some slow corners to get through. It's going to need to be here in second gear. Can coast through in third like that. Break down to first and then emerge as fast as it can. Unfortunately, that's only as fast as fifth gear. We are coming to the end of the lap and the GT5 is running away with it. It's going to coast. Break down to 3 is one hazard. Drop to second, and then it can boost up to fourth. Not the most amount of distance that it can get unless it decides to put a gear 5 there and then coast at the end like that, leaving a little opportunity for the GT6 to try another overtake. As we see what it rolls, a couple of hazards. It's going to break down to second, I think, and then speed up. Sixth over the bridge, but I don't think it'll be enough. Can the GT6 overtake? It is going to coast and then break down to gear 3. It can be in fifth gear there. It's not over yet. What can the GT5 do? It needs to sustain this forward momentum, and to do so it's going to break down to first gear, coast out around the corner. Fourth is fine. I think that's enough for a win. We will soon find out, as the GT6 has to slow down very quickly. A fair few hazards on its roll. It can get down to second, which is what it needed to do, and it can coast out to come alongside the GT5 once again, but not have enough dice to do anything else. The GT5 has one corner left, and it is going to break down to first gear using one hazard, coast through the corner, emerging the other side in fifth gear. It's on the home straight as we go into what is surely the final round, and GT5 can cross the line with no issues as the GT6 is just left in the dust. Still a considerable bit of time behind and running out of events to make it back up. The GT6 will be hoping that the GT5 has an issue or two for sure. Here we are around the outskirts of Loch Rannoch, and the surface of the track has dried enough for the use of dry tyres. However, GT5 is hedging its bets and staying on the wets. This is Scotland, so anything can happen. As he rolls an awful lot of hazards, he escapes a loss of control. He could get up to third and make things a little difficult by forcing the GT6 around the outside, and that is the best that the GT5 can do. The GT6 is on the right tyres for the job, and hopefully there are enough straights on this course for it to hit top gear and get a lead. Let's find out as we get off the start line in first gear. We will go through the corner in second, overtake in third, and we can put down all of our dice. Do we want to? I don't think the GT6 wants to get up to sixth gear, knowing that there is gear 1 corner coming up. It's got turn order. It doesn't need to do anything fancy. Next round then, the GT6 has a lead, couple of hazards at its high gears. It can brake all the way down to first and then get through the corner. And then we can see how far it gets before coming into the next corner. It could get up to fifth if it wants to make things a little difficult for the GT5 behind it. So I think it'll do that. The GT5 gets to try and catch up. Let's see, wants to be in first there somewhere. Can do something like that. Boost up to third. Gets it the distance, but not the speed that it needs. Can the GT6 brake for the corner? It certainly can. And I think then it's just going to power out. Can't place the sixth because it's a speed limited corner. The GT5 is going to have no problems tackling this turn. Brake down to first and then coast into the corner and emerge on the other side in fifth gear. In the mirrors of the GT6 in front of it. You can go through the corner in second and then out in third and then go fourth, fifth, sixth for its second hazard. Can't put down its coast. That would be another hazard for the turn. So the GT6 finally gets into sixth gear and hopefully it can maintain this lead as it goes up the hill around the Loch. Can the GT5 maintain its pace? It should be able to once again. Let's coast through, brake down to second gear, dip into first for one hazard, boost up to third, through in fourth, obey the speed limit to come out in the middle in fifth gear. Another round goes by. The GT6 has another few hazards on its low gears. Doesn't want to use them if it can help it, as it finishes in fifth gear. It avoids a loss of control, but it does not have a lot of dice to work with. Brake down to second, into third, boost into fifth gear. Next round, and things aren't looking good for the GT6. Its brake dice are all hazards, so it will only use one of them to get into third gear. It can then coast a little, I think, and then it can get up to fifth, but it won't be able to do any more than that. A hazard on gears 2 and 3, but not on gear 4, so it avoids a loss of control. Let's see. It can go into fourth. If it breaks down to any gear really, it won't be able to place anything else. So it's just going to go into fifth and then break down into gear 3 for the corner just to get it one more space of distance. So it has lost a bit of speed on the downhill. Maybe it caught a bump and unsettled itself. In either case, it is still in second place as we go into the next round. The GT6 is looking more of a certain victor, but with all of those hazards, that's going to be another challenging turn. No loss of control. Gear 2 was safe on that roll. However, they are going to have to do something about breaking down to the next few corners. Let's go into fourth. in that space and then coast through like that. We can coast once more, brake down into second gear, and then park on the apex in first. Hopefully that will be enough distance to the GT5, but we are going to give it 2 turns in a row, and it's going to roll most of its dice quite cleanly. A 5th gear finish for the GT5, as we thought. However, it now has an opportunity to block the GT6. 5, 4, 3 and a coast would get it around the outside. However, putting gear 2 there would allow the GT6 an opportunity to get through. So if instead we use one of our brake dice to brake there, coast around the outside and emerge in third. So the GT6 is again blocked by a more nimbler opponent. We're going to brake down to first gear, and we can place whatever we can think really as we finish in 5th gear, just a few tiles away from the finish line. What does the GT6 need to do to get a win against the GT5? Rolling well would be nice. Let's see, it's in first gear, so it can stay in first gear. It needs to get, ideally, up to 6th, but I don't think there's enough room. So it can only get to 5th. Can anything else be done? We could, in fact, coast and then use one hazard to slam on the brakes like that in a last desperate attempt to slow the GT5 down. It would be a futile attempt, as there is space around the outside of the corner to overtake and secure victory, unless something disastrous happens in the next turn. Let's find out. As it rolls a clean set of dice, it is able to brake down to second gear, to coast around the outside, and then just power across the finish line in 5th gear. Another dominant performance by the GT5. Even being on the right tyres wasn't enough for the GT6, as the nimbler GT5 managed to exploit a mistake, block another turn and secure an overtake for yet another win. It's important to note that in an auto tour you don't use the BOP dashboards to allow for some closer side-by-side racing. You're supposed to maximise your car's strengths wherever possible and minimise its weaknesses everywhere else. The GT5 deliberately chose to race on the wrong tyres just to give the GT6 a bit of a chance, but it seems that no amount of help will give that supposedly superior car a win, and surely it's game over for the GT6 now. Something very special is needed at the hill climb. It just about fits on the table, but not in the lens of the camera. Because I'm using time cards, I thought it was easier to put them on the GT5 Rally dashboard. Just the 1 second back for unused dice and a 5th gear time card. A little bit of braking to be done. Another 1 second back and another 5th gear finish. Nothing to worry about. They haven't lost control. They're in 5th gear. They want to, ideally, try and get through the gears. Let's see. If they break down to second there, they can then drop to first gear there, and then they can extend their run a little, boost into third, and then emerge in 5th on that space there. They will have some slowing down to do on this turn, just the one hazard on gear 1. They want to try and keep their speed up if they can. So they can be there in 4th in order to use 2 brake dice on the next turn. 2 hazards on 3 and 4. They've avoided a loss of control. 5th gear finish. There is still more to climb as we go into the next round. A couple of hazards to avoid, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. They'd like to be in 3rd here if they can get there. So they're in 5th. They need to be in 4th. A couple of coasts would put them in 3rd gear. They could boost up to 5th. They would, however, have to go the long way around. Let's see how they navigate these last few tiles. They have to break down to 2nd gear, and that will be 1 hazard, and they have to do it on the outside. So they will have to coast through that next space. They have a gear 1 corner coming up, so they only want to be in 4th in that space. However, if they can get to 5th here, they can end their turn there instead. Could this be the final round as they have a look at their dice? A couple of hazards scattered about. There's one on the 1 as they break down to the corner, and I lurch to get to the top of the table. They don't really have the gears to get into 5th, so unfortunately they cross the line in 3rd gear, but they have certainly done a solid performance on the Rest and Be Thankful hill climb. Can the GT6 match it? It does not have the manoeuvrability through the gears. It will finish in 5th gear. It will take 1 second back for unused dice. We are going to have another couple of hazards on the brakes, but we are able to use our gear 6 die for the first time. How will it navigate these dangerous corners? There is a hazard on just gear 6, so it should be doing pretty well. Let's coast. If we break down to 4th and then come through in 5th and then drop to 6th there, that will give us a bit of a problem breaking into the next corner. So if instead we go into this space in 5th, turn that to a hazard because it is a dangerous corner, and then put our 6th gear die down there, that'll be better for us. And for once, our brakes are doing a little bit better. So how far down through the gears can we get? We can get into 3rd gear. That'll be 1 hazard. We could then coast through easily enough. We would have a problem being in 2 higher gear for the next corner, so we're going to have to keep those coast aside and come through to end in 6th gear like that. Another 3 seconds for unused dice and another gear 6 finish. Next round, and it looks like it's finally time to slow down. I think the GT6 is going to have to take a bit of a hit on this turn. As most of its dice are hazards anyway, it's got no problem with that. Hasn't lost control. It has avoided doing so thanks to Gear 2. That has been a very useful die for both cars to avoid losses of control during this auto tour. GT6 is in 6th gear, so it's going to break down to 4th. That's 1 hazard. It can then coast, and I think that's the best that it can do. Will its brakes be a little more useful on this turn? They certainly are, just the 1 hazard on gear 3. So we can break down to 1st gear and accelerate through these tiles. We can get up to 6th gear before that kink in the road, so let's do that. Probably better to coast around the outside. I'll only have us finish in 2nd gear. This tight section at the top of the hill is really going to be costly for the GT6. Let's see how it navigates the final hairpin. It's a gear 1 hairpin, so we are going to try to get up to gear 4 as efficiently as we can. Final round then, and we are looking for a good set of brakes. 5 across the line is all that the GT6 can manage. Has it been quick enough over the first 2/3 of the stage in order to make up for that slow finish? Let's find out. This has been a tour to forget for the GT6, hasn't it? I'm sure there's a faster line up the mountain than that, but we're not doing multiple runs for either driver to try and find out, so the GT6 is stuck with being faster than the GT5 by just 2 seconds, which is very much not the same as being faster by 2 minutes, and it has therefore clocked in an overall tour time so far of 7 minutes and 7 seconds. It seems 7 is not a lucky number for one of these cars. For the other car, well, it does feel like they're driving a rather special and rather wide GT5. As we are not racing for anything other than the GT6's pride, both cars are on the RX dashboard. Sunny weather to start. It does mean that the GT6 gets to use a boost die, but as it is second on the start line, it gets to see what the GT5 can do with it. Of course, the GT5 is no stranger to the boost die, so there is something to learn for the GT6. Coasting through the first corner. Can get all the way up to 5th gear in the sliding space. It does give options for the GT6 to go through the shortcut. Let's see what it does as it rolls a fair few hazards itself, quite a few in fact. Let's avoid them as best we can. I think 3-4 gets the distance. Next round then, the GT5 is around in a slide. I think they will break down to seconds. That's one hazard. They can coast through like that. Boost up to 4th gear and they can block the course with a gear 5 die there. Let's see how the GT6 can overcome that. We are not using the full contact rules. This is a gentlemanly auto tour. Let's see, they want to be in 5th gear just to show that they can, somewhere around there, which would mean 4th gear there, 3rd gear there. They don't want to break down to 2nd because that would be a hazard. So I think the best they can do is 5th gear in another standard space like that. They are close, but not close enough. The GT5 has an awful lot of hazards on this roll, and that is the best they can do. Gives the GT6 a chance to overtake. What can it do? Lots of hazards at the top end of its gearbox as well. It would like to be there in 5th or in front. I think it would probably have to boost in order to avoid gear 4. Can it get through the corner in 3rd gear? Yes, it can. We can rearrange those dice so that they are legal. It cannot do anything else, so it has come alongside the GT5, threatening an overtake but not succeeding in getting one. Next round, the GT5 is on the inside and they are going to coast up to the end of the lap. They need to break down for a speed limit of 3, which they can do. Come through in 2nd. Coast, boost up to 4th gear, and then around the corner in 5th gear. The GT6 has a decision to make. Does it follow them and hope to overtake on track, or does it take the Joker lap now and split the strategy and see what happens going forward? I would always split the strategy in this situation, so that's what the GT6 is going to do. They can... Let's get distance. Let's go down through the gears, break down to gear 1 and then come out in 2nd. That is probably the best thing for them to do. Next round, GT5 to go first. GT5 has a good set of dice to work with, but there is a gear 2 corner coming up. Do they want to slow down? At some point, yes. And if they want to block the track up a little, I think they're going to have to go into a drift around the outside like that. The GT6 has a straight run. It doesn't want to end higher than 3rd. Next round, GT5 is going into the first hairpin, going to continue drifting like that. Hopefully they can get through the corner. That would be something like that. And again, use the slide space to block up the track. The GT6 doesn't have much chance of catching up at this rate. I think they're probably going to have to opt for the shortcut. So they can brake to first gear to cut through the inside of that corner, and they can coast out like that. They can go through the shortcut in second, and we'll draw a shortcut token for them. -1 coast damage. They do not have the luck on this auto tour. As they come into the hairpin, maybe clip the inside bank and put a dent in their chances of success. Next round, the GT5 can coast in the next space, break down to second. It can then coast a little bit more, drop to first, and then boost up to third, and enter the Joker section in fifth gear, like that. Let's see what the GT6 can do with one fewer coast die. Lots of dice to work with to finish there in fifth. GT5 still has turn order. They are heading on to the Joker lap, but they have not yet passed the Joker gate. So we are still determining turn order by who is on the standard lap, and technically they still are. So they're going to roll all of these dice and see what they can do through the hairpin. They are going to coast through like that, but I think they actually want to go into fourth so that they can break down to first gear. They can come through in second, out in third, and then boost up to fifth gear. Let's see if the GT6 can overtake. It should be on for them. They need to be in at least fifth there. Fourth through the speed restriction. They need to be in third through that speed restriction. And they have finally managed, even with a loss of a coast die, to overtake the GT5 and are able on the next turn to coast over the line for a victory. Whether that was through strategy or sheer dumb luck, we will have to check the tape to find out. And the tape says that the GT5 could have just parked in the one and only space that the standard lap uses to turn onto the start-finish line and block the GT6 from even thinking about that last overtake. So there was an option for a sneaky block and yet another victory for the classic car against its normally speedier opponent. But that's that. The GT5 led from the start and never looked back. Pushing too hard over a jump was really all it took for the GT6's chances to come undone, and while there should have been plenty of opportunities to catch up, for whatever reason, the GT6 just couldn't manage it, leaving the GT5 as our Scottish Auto Tour victor. So, what do we take away from our tour today? Well, there are a number of things, I think. Firstly, the Auto Tour probably favours more time-based events than circuit races, especially when you have fewer cars. With only 2 cars, if you finish a minute behind your rival on a rally stage, you will need to win 6 races in a row to make that time back up. And by that point, you might as well be racing in a championship, not an auto tour. On the other hand, by making your rally stages nice and short, closer to a minute in length, then you'll have a better chance to keep the overall times together, until a loss of control, of course. So have a think about the makeup and length of your events, but wherever possible, I'd suggest to fill up your tour with cars and really give everyone a chance to affect the timings with a good showing on any kind of event. And if that means including a couple of NPCs, then get some NPCs involved. Secondly, this would have been a perfect demonstration of using Romix's dynamic weather rules, not just to simulate the Scottish weather, but for that weather to change over the course of a day, affecting multiple events. If a race started dry but ended wet, the next event can start wet and end who knows where. It's a shame I didn't think about that until the race around Bannochbrae, really. You'll have to work out how the weather affects rally stages and the like, but we've touched on ideas for that in previous shakedowns and they shouldn't be too hard to cobble together. The end result is that tyre choice will start to become even more important. Today, the weather would only change with a loss of control in a circuit race, and these cars just didn't want to lose control. So there wasn't much of a choice when it came to tyres, and absolutely no need to pit. Introduce the threat of rain, however, and now gambling to stay on dry tyres for just a turn or 2 more is an important decision to make, and might make all the difference in the long run. The third point then is that this mix of events, whether you include dynamic weather or not, will serve to show you how your car drives under different conditions. You don't want to spend too long on a dirt stage in a GT6, even on the right tyres for the job. You can still go fast, but even thinking about going over a jump or through a shortcut can be problematic. Learning how to make the most of your dice in tricky situations will get you thinking about how best to use them on more favourable terrain, and learning how to navigate your dashboard with unusual combinations of dice will help should you take damage in another event, for example, and have to work out a way around a circuit without using your brakes. Practice does make perfect. It's safe to say there are a fair few ideas for how you can tailor an auto tour to your interests, and what better way to find out how your favourite car fares than with a new event or two. With Rallyman circuits, stages and hill climbs from across the world, where will your next tour take you?